Hello students, in the concluding session of this course, we will revise some of the debates concerning Indian writing in English. We will also look at the opinions of Salman Rushdie, Amit Chaudhry, V.S. Naipaul and Jhumpa Lahiri. One of the key issues is the superiority versus inferiority of Indian writing in English as opposed to the literary production in the various languages of India. We already know some authors consider Indian writing in English to be superior compared to the literature of other languages of India, while others consider it to be inferior. The key polar concepts in this context are superficial versus authentic, imitative versus creative, shallow versus deep, critical versus uncritical, elitist versus parochial, and so on. The views of Salman Rushdie are expressed in his work, The Vintage Book of Indian Writing. In this particular book, Rushdie makes the following statement. I quote, "The ironic proposition that India's best writing since independence may have been done in the language of the departed imperialists is simply too much for some folks to bear." Unquote. In this statement, Rushdie points out that the best literature after independence is written by the writers in English. So we are using the language of the departed imperialists. Who are the departed imperialists? They are the Westerners or the British people. We are using their language to write India's best literature. Now, this statement by Rushdie created a lot of resentment among many writers, including writers in English. Now, let us look at Amit Chaudhry's statement as expressed in his book, The Picador Book of Modern Indian Literature. Amit Chaudhry questions, can it be true that Indian writing, that endlessly rich, complex and problematic entity, is to be represented by a handful of writers who write in English, who live in England or America, and whom one might have met at a party? Unquote. Now, Amit Chaudhry makes two statements here. One is that Indian writing is endlessly rich, complex and problematic entity, and this particular literature is written by a handful of writers who live abroad. So how can they represent the entire body of Indian writing? This question is made by Amit Chaudhry. Chaudhry feels that after Rushdie's Midnight Children, Indian writing in English started employing magical realism, bagginess, non-linear narrative technique, and hybrid language to sustain themes seen as macrocosms of India and supposedly reflecting Indian conditions. Now, we all know that Rushdie's Midnight Children was a landmark work as far as Indian writing in English is considered. And the techniques used by Rushdie in his work are being followed by other writers who are writing at present. Chaudhry contrasts this with the works of earlier writers such as Narayan, R.K. Narayan, where the use of English is pure, but the deciphering of meaning needs cultural familiarity. Now, what is Amit Chaudhry telling us here? Rushdie's style, when compared to R.K. Narayan's style, makes it clear that R.K. Narayan's use of language is pure, but to understand it, to understand the theme and various stories that are represented by R.K. Narayan, we need to have cultural familiarity. He also feels that Indianness is a theme constructed only in Indian writing in English and does not articulate itself in the vernacular literatures. So, the theme of Indianness can be found only in Indian writing in English, according to Amit Chaudhary. This particular feeling of nationhood or pride in one's culture and tradition can be found only in Indian writing in English, but in the other languages of India, in the literature of those languages, we don't find the theme of Indianness. Amit Chaudhary further writes that the post colonial novel becomes a trope for an ideal hybridity by which the West celebrates not so much Indianness, whatever that infinitely complex thing is, but its own historical quest, its a reinterpretation of itself. Now, Amit Chaudhary also writes about post colonial novel, and Indian writing in English can also be included in the post colonial novel section. So, Amit Chaudhary expresses a doubt that in the literature of post colonial genre, the West celebrates its own historical quest of reinterpretation. Some of these arguments form an integral part of what is called post colonial theory. The very categorization of Indian writing in English as Indian writing in English or under post colonial literature is seen by some as limiting. Now, we already have seen that due to many definitions that Indian writing in English has, authors always say that Indian writing in English is a problematic category and we cannot include it under any of the headings, whether it is post colonial literature or whether it is Indian writing in English. There is some kind of a confusion, and these headings are very limiting or restrictive. Amitav Ghosh made his views on this very clear by refusing to accept the Eurasian Commonwealth Writers' Prize for his book The Glass Palace in 2001 and withdrawing it from the subsequent stage. Now, authors expressed different opinions regarding categorization. Where does Indian writing in English figure? Regarding this, there is a lot of confusion, and Amitav Ghosh did not want to be considered as a Commonwealth writer. That is why he refused to accept the honor that was bestowed upon him in the year 2001. The renowned writer V.S. Naipaul, who is the third generation Indian from Trinidad and a Nobel Prize laureate, is a person who belongs to the world and usually not classified under Indian writing in English. We know that he is usually classified as a Caribbean writer. Naipaul evokes ideas of homeland, rootlessness, and his own personal feelings towards India in many of his books, yet, he is not considered as an Indian writer in English. Jhumpa Lahiri, a Pulitzer Prize winner from the US who has Indian roots, is a writer who is uncomfortable with the label of Indian writing in English. So, in this video, we have seen the opinions of several authors who reject categorization or classification of Indian writing in English. Thank you.